Good evening and welcome to the newest episode of The Locker Room. And I am joined by the king of the radio, legend, Emile Franchi. How are you doing?
I'm good, mate. It's one day at a time at the minute, isn't it? We're just counting down to that, whichever the next day is that we're kind of looking forward to. I'm losing track, but I just 12th of April, isn't it, when we can actually get into a beer garden. I'm not like desperate for it, but it's something to work towards. It's like Christmas Eve all over. I've got an advent calendar opening each door, and then there's nothing behind it. It's like, oh, come on.
You're not put a beer behind every door just to warm up.
Well, I'm having to knock through the next door, but they've just moved in, so it'd be a bit rude, wouldn't it? It's like, this advent calendar that I want to make, so no, not quite. Something to work on.
Definitely, but it is. You're right. It's such a strange period of time at the minute. So, but that's what we're here to discuss. We're here to try and help people open up and talk and try and battle the stigmas that are attached to men's mental health, especially. And leading on from that, did you want to share with us at first your experiences around mental health, whether it's yourself or others around you?
So when did I first discover it? Yeah. To be honest, I think that my first kind of bits of realizing it was when I first went to live alone, fully alone, because I did university. And then when I got my first proper radio job, I lived in Stoke-on-Trent. So I went from Newcastle University, which, hustle and bustle of Newcastle upon Tyne, big group of mates. You see them quite regularly. You go out quite a lot. Social life is good. And there's such an explosion of memories in the 3 years that you're at university, if you've been, and certainly for me that I held dear. So suddenly leaving that behind to go to a new place to do something pretty exciting, but not to have that kind of release of nights out or close by friends. Those were the bits where I started to maybe feel quite alone, and then add into that the stresses of trying to work your way into an industry. It's like just a really awful cocktail, to be honest, to start you out. It's quite strange. I don't think anyone really prepares you for it, and you've got to be strong for it in a way. And I think I did all right, but there's occasions where you'll be working for a little bit of money. Maybe I did maybe 2 shows on the radio a week, so you're not making a great deal of money, but having to move nearby in order to be the person that they rely on, it's like your mind's just doing backflips, being like, right, so I have to be here, but I can't afford to be here. Cool, okay. But you want me to be on at night and you want me to talk about life, but I'm not actually going to be able to have a life because you want us to work Saturday morning at 1 a.m. and Sunday morning at 1 a.m. and also try and form a bit of a social life with the money that I don't have on the days of the week when everyone's working. Okay, cool. I'll get back to you in 5 years and tell you how I can do that. And, I've since seen how you do it. But yeah, I think that the first year or two when I was working away and in a strange place, that's the bit where you really start to notice your anxieties are on show. And I mean, certainly in my line of work, I think anyone who's got a creative string in them will constantly be doubting themselves. Some people will be really confident with it, but I challenge anyone to kind of say that they've never had a doubt about something that they've said on radio, TV, YouTube, or podcasts, anything like that. It's you're thinking. I mean, even now I'm thinking like, oh God, have I just said the right thing? That's literally how it works. So, yeah, there's a lot, but I think that was the first bit, and it was quite strange because when I was on my own, I was the new guy there. Everyone who worked at the station was either local or had a job good enough to perhaps live a bit further away, in a life further away, with normal social hours. So yeah, thrust in at the deep end is how I would describe it. But I swam.
Yeah, that's the main thing. I think, especially in your line of work, is a massive dog eat dog society, isn't it?
Yeah, it is. It is.
And for someone that sort of age to move to a city which they're not sure of, I can imagine the anxiety levels were huge. Like I felt it when I first moved up to the northeast, and I'm quite a confident, some might say cocky bloke. I'm big and I come across, I know what I'm talking about. And even for me, I felt the anxieties of being somewhere new, having a different accent, which is obviously a lot less noticeable. But it's just that it's social anxieties, which a lot of people don't expect from people who, when they're at home, are different to what they are when they're away.
Oh, it's so strange. Like it's quite alarming actually, because like I say, from going from uni and uni life and everything that comes with it, you know, you feel like the dog's bollocks, man. You go out one night and you'll think, right, come on, it's going to be a good one this, and you'll talk to that person and you'll make friends with that person over there who you've never met, and and you'll maybe get someone's number, and that's the thing. When I first went down to Stoke, I felt as though I just lost everything. I felt like I lost every ability to socialize. And I thought, this isn't you. This is not you. You are not like this. You can talk to people, but suddenly when you're there, you're like, oh God, this is you. You've not, and it's because you've not got that shield of people who you hold dear. Someone who there's a few people who I met down there who were great at introducing me, but like they've got their mates, and then suddenly you're like, well, if they go and talk to them, who am I going to go and talk to? And suddenly you're walking around holding their hand, and it's like, what am I doing? This is mad. I'm like 21-year-old and I can't socialize. This is crazy, and it hits you hard. Tell you what, it does, it really does.
It does. That's normally the first steps into realizing that you're suffering, whether it's with anxiety or just because you sit inside your own thoughts. I did it when I first moved here. I sat inside my own head. I knew people, but they weren't my friends from home. They weren't my comfort blanket and my safety net. Like I have at home, and you find yourself, once you get a friend, you're like clinging on for dear life.
Yeah.
Like, what are you up to? Can I come with you? Is that all right? Yeah. But then you get introduced to their friends, and then you're like even more anxious within yourself because you're not sure. Because at home, I can be a completely different person because those people I've grown up with know me inside out and know what an absolute dick I can be. Like in terms of good, happy.
Yeah, no, I know exactly. I know exactly what you mean. It's like they know the things that they can take the piss out of you for.
Yeah,
and they know the things that they'll bring up if you do something, and taking away those little, not triggers if you like, but things that they know will get on your nerves. I was just longing for something like that, and that those are the things where you think, I wish they were there to laugh at me for that. And it's mad because eventually people come and visit you and things like that, but then you've got new people, and it's just great because I was in Stoke for 2 years, and I think that the person who went there and joined, and then the person who left and had an actual night where I said goodbye to people, it's exactly the same me, but completely different scenarios, because it's mad, and I'll probably have to do it again at some point because radio is such a shifting world. But luckily now I've wherever I go, I've made enough inroads with people already to think, right, that there's a sense of home if you get there, there's someone there if you get there, and yeah. But after uni, it's like, there's the cliff, off you go, right? Enjoy life.
We do a lot of that in my main job. Is we're situated right in the middle of Student Central, so we're right next to Northumbria Uni, and a lot of our staff are students. So we see both ends of the spectrum. You see sort of like the staff that want to go on and thrive, but then you see staff who you can see their core, and you can see the fact they moved up to one of the best cities in the country, but they're alone, and it is literally thrive or die time. And you see some of them, like I've had staff that have literally left me just to work, and that is from their own insecurities about, am I good enough? Am I able to prolong what I'm doing to build up this network to have a career? From what I've done with obviously the foundation and a lot of other stuff I've done in developing my own mental health, I wouldn't say career, 'cause it's not a career, but stuff otherwise. Like I've learned
research, isn't it?
Yeah,
It's building a portfolio and stuff,
training and stuff like that, and to see it developing in someone is quite fascinating to watch, and at the same time scary because you think, where is your mind going?
Well, see, that there's another element that I was about to say. I'm from the Northeast and went to uni in Newcastle, so I can't even begin to imagine what it must be like for someone who's 18 and coming to a new city, because even that would be so much more daunting, because I had the added benefit of when I started uni, I knew Newcastle almost like the back of my hand. I've got to know it a lot better since, but equally there's a few friends there who were from my school, local friends, people from the Northeast, because there's just a general affinity with anyone from the Northeast that you can almost bond with straight away. But if you're coming from an outer area, it could be so much different. And I imagine that I maybe delayed that feeling by 3 years, so by going to Stoke when I first went to do my job, it might be easy to ingrain yourself into student life in a new place, but I went to a new place and just didn't have any base. I had a bit of family who I stayed with initially, but then I had to get my own place, and from then it was like, okay, good luck. And it's mad because people from there probably don't even realize, and you can't actually say like, can you help, because it's you feel weak in a way. You feel weak to be like, I'm really, but eventually it got to a point where I was like, I don't feel like I've got any mates, and I'm like, I'm one of the most social people in the world, and I've got no mates. Mm-hmm. And it broke me, man. It broke me. It really did, because it was like, oh, this is embarrassing. This is really embarrassing.
But then, did you have that feeling then, being a man, especially a man, was, I shouldn't feel like this. This is wrong, because maybe someone that you know as an example, you look at them and think they wouldn't feel like this.
You know what? I don't think so, because I would challenge anyone to be in that position and try and forge inroads into other groups. It's difficult, man. The thing is, I think it's probably more that I had to remain quite solid for my job's sake. It's like you've come down here, you've made this decision. You've decided to go ahead with this. You've got to make sure that you don't drop out at the first hurdle, and that was kind of where it was. It wasn't so much of being like a bloke. I mean, I get what you're saying. Yeah, there might be someone who can deal with that better. But honestly, I would challenge anyone to go to a new place at that age after having this in terms of friendship groups to that. And it just sends you loopy, man. It really does. It can really, really sort like take you down weird paths and think, oh God, like what if I maybe, and you know what? It made me work harder. It made me work harder because I knew that the more I did at work, the better show time I would be on, and then the more social life you get, and that's exactly what happened. So yeah, like you said, the sink or swim of that really helped, but it wasn't nice at first.
Yeah, no, I know.
Glad it didn't.
That's the thing. And I moved up here when I just turned 30, and at home I had a massive group of friends. We all got on, and they knew me. And then I came up here, started a new job, changed career, had to make friends within that career as well as friends just to be around. It's a hard situation to be in. And I mean, I'm the same as you. I'm very social. I could talk to a wall and make friends with it. And like
that's what I did in Stoke. That's it. That was my one friend.
But it's true though. You like, especially you've got the sort of personality where you can probably just turn to anyone and make a pal. And I feel like I've got that same sort of thing. Is I can turn my hand and talk to anyone. I feel like I'm very accommodating. But when I first moved here, because obviously I had the misconceptions of I'm a Cockney, and people taking the piss out of my accent, and it does get to you. Like, all I ever got was all right, and it's sort of like,
tell me about it, man. All I got is Howie every time.
Yeah.
I was like, I'm not even from Newcastle. What are you doing? I was like, oh no, and it's like, again, I'm from Durham. You've got the wrong, like, if you can do a good impression of Matt Baker, you're there. But at the minute, just coming up to me and going Anton-Deck, and I'm like, no, I'm like, that's not how. But then, you know, when you are the outsider, like, I guess in every social scenario, if you've got something that sets you apart from everyone else, they're gonna pick up on it. And when you're the only person, it's like, oh God, right? So here we go. That's my thing. And eventually, you just go, well, you know what? If that endears me to you, then great. So I'll play up to that stereotype. Yeah.
Like, I got called Danny Dyer for 6 months, and I'm like, first of all, I don't sound like Danny Dyer. I certainly don't look like Danny Dyer. But
I'm not even related to a king. I've not even got a royal bloodline.
I might be. We don't know.
Yeah.
But it gets to you massively, and it's sort of like one of those things. I'm not saying it necessarily pushed my mental health. I think my mental health was pushed by other factors, but it definitely gave me a sense of social anxiety and made me overthink situations when I was out, and I was always doubting what I would say because obviously my accent is different, my words are different, my choice of wording of certain words is different. So
yeah, I don't think it stopped me as much in that sense, but you know, I guess that every situation is different. I think that for a lot of the people I met, it was just the novelty of having someone who sounds a bit different, and again, that played into my hands in meeting people because they were like, oh, we love that accent and stuff, you know, like we like that. It's a bit different. So eventually the walls break down, and then you're in, and then you're meeting people's parents, and then, you know, you're embraced, and that was the bit. But what I will say is that with radio, because I left Stoke and came back to the Northeast, and again, that felt weird because then you come back to a social scenario where the city that you knew and the people that you knew there, most of them are now gone.
Mm-hmm.
So, and this was like 4 or 5 years ago. At that point, you're like, okay, so now you've got to adapt to the new version of the place that you once knew. And, you know, working my way back to the Northeast felt so sweet inside because it was, you've done what you set out to do. But getting back to the city, it's like, okay, it's about 3 people left out of the solid 100 that you might have known prior to that, and that's dwindling because all of those people will eventually leave. Because, you know, at uni you don't just meet your year, you meet some below, some above. So it's almost like a bit of like a battles to survive in the social world. And I know that might not apply to everyone, but when you come back to the place, you're like, oh, so what have I missed? And it's like, well, nothing, but like there's so many people gone now. And then again, you are faced with a bit of a scenario where, because I used to work weekends, and again, living here in Gateshead and having the city there, but having a weekend when I couldn't really do much because I was at work, and during the week I was just doing nothing with myself because I couldn't afford to. Here we go again. It's like, okay, this is the reverse now, but you're home. So now how do you do this now? So that's it. It's like it's choosing my job has probably had the biggest impact on me. And, you know, the desire to succeed has driven me forward, but it has its pitfalls, and that's it really.
No, I think that's it. Like, you're completely right. In whenever I've gone back home and you say to people, oh, what's the crack, what's good, and they go, oh, nothing's changed, but you look around and you think, mate, everything's changed.
Yeah, exactly. Like, what have I missed?
I don't live in Bromley anymore. And you're like, obviously, it's like Bromley's expensive to live in, so they've all moved out like I did just to get a better way of life. You go back and you've got people sitting there, but when you see they've gone, you're like, well, it has changed, and I've changed, and I've moved on, and this isn't now what I need. And I can see the impact that had on my life, and moving away made it better.
Yeah,
and it opened my eyes, and it obviously opened up my eyes to my struggles and helped me seek the support that I needed, which has helped me grow into who I am now.
Mm-hmm.
And sort of like, in some ways I'm grateful, but in some ways I'm sort of like, you still sit there anxiously looking on thinking, did I do the right thing? Was it the right move? But in the long term, I'm up here. I've got a good.
Lost you.
Sounds
good. Oh, there he is. He's back. He's back.
You know what? Someone rang me. You know, the joy of on your phone. But it is. It's just like up here. I've got what I wanted.
Yeah.
And what I needed, and my kids are comfortable, and my missus is comfortable, and she's working. And
that accomplishment always makes it feel worth it, doesn't it? Every big change that you made, because again, you mentioned a key word there, being overthinking. That's my biggest downfall, you know, just thinking about like, oh, what if I'd done that differently? What if I'd done that differently? What if that person what if I'd spoken to them at the right time? And it's like, oh, okay, right. Stop. But that's exactly it. Like if you spend too many times thinking, what if I'd done this? There's no point, man. You're on the path because you need to be on that path, and I'm doing my path, and there'll be another big chapter to come. I feel like everyone's got like the next thing, and that'll be the big thing that defines the next. So if you like, I've only the last 6 years have only really been the first chapter.
Yeah.
Of working through it, and I think in that time that there's been a lot that I've learned, which is going to help me going forward with the struggles that probably come with the next bit.
No, definitely. I think that's a great way of looking at it, is looking at your life in chapters, and everything that's happening now won't be happening in 5 years. And I learned that the hard way, and I look at it now as an opportunity to sort of look ahead, but live where you are. I always used to look ahead and think, well, I haven't got this, I haven't got that. But now I'm in the aspect where I'm like, I could have that. I'm working hard enough. The kids are growing up, and there's more opportunities for me to do what I need to do to get to that point.
Yeah.
And
that's it. That's 5 years ago. I'd only just completed my first year in Stoke.
Yeah.
And I'd started 5 years ago. I started doing overnight shows Monday to Friday. And I mean, again, there's another thing that messes with your head. If you're gearing yourself up to do overnight shifts for like 3 months without an actual change in between that to give yourself a week off, unless you force yourself into a week off, then God, that'll flip your world upside down as well. That's just, you know, I've chosen the wrong career, really, haven't I, to get through all these things.
You haven't. You smash it. We listen to you regularly, and you smash it, honestly.
Oh, well, that means a lot, mate. I mean, it really does.
When you and your knowledge is second to none.
Well, you've got to have it. You've got to have it. If you're going to be one of their wives one day, if you're going to be one of their husbands one day, you have to kind of just know a little bit about Little Mix. So that's
definitely, absolutely. So how we're going to move on, obviously, to the current situation and COVID, because it's the bane of everything. How have you coped through the period? Because obviously, with your job and everything else going on, how have you personally coped with it?
Flavor of the month, isn't it? So I was talking to someone about this the other day, and I've done this kind of this routine of going through this explanation of it. I genuinely feel as though I've not had the same experience as a lot of people, because I've been able to go into work every single day of it. You know, I haven't missed a beat. I've taken a few weeks off just here and there. Well, 1 week off, in fact, in the entire thing, just for a little staycation. But other than that, my Monday to Friday is getting to work 2:00, which is centre of Newcastle. Go into the building, speak to someone who works there, producer, and go through the show, and then get to do the show, and then go home. And yeah, so for the first few months, nothing changed. I didn't have to do any of this from where I'm sat right now, which I'm really lucky with. I know a lot of presenters who work in buildings where it's not COVID safe. We have the luxury of having a fairly empty building anyway. And yeah, it's weird. I think my biggest thing is that for radio to really thrive, you need to have a balance. So radio itself thrives on social experience and life stories. If you run out of them, then you're suddenly like scrambling around to look at the biggest showbiz stuff, and it's like that's not, you know, people want real stuff. People want to know about the things that I was doing at the weekend. Not like me saying, oh, you want to know what I'm doing, but like I can take a story from the weekend and say, has this ever happened to you, type thing, and that's how you invite people in and do that. But you know what it is, I I honestly think that the last 12 months have been the most important for me on the radio, because I've come into my own and really formed a good understanding of how I present. And that's, I don't mean to sound selfish in that, but I've certainly felt more confident and comfortable in my entire presenting style than I have in my entire 6 years of doing radio. And you know, that is the year after year of stacking up of experience now. But it came along at the right time for me to really start like thinking, okay, today we're going to talk about this, today we're going to talk about that. And now I am so comfortable with the position I'm in that it really comes across. So I think that over the last year, I've certainly felt better in myself. But then, you know, the lack of social time outside of that can sometimes really take hold, and the frustration of not being able to do the stuff that you really enjoy. Because again, as we said, I thrive on social interaction. I need to have some form of social interaction. I need to see people. I like to entertain as much as I like to be on the radio. I want to be the guy who's probably in the pub that some people might roll their eyes at and think, God, here he goes again. He's talking again. But you know what? Actually, it's going to get a few laughs on the night, and there'll be something that I did that'll make someone smile. And those occasions are the bits when you really like do it. And you know what it is? I've had so many Zoom conversations just with mates where I feel myself slipping into that kind of like, this happened, by the way, you know, and people laugh, and you're like, okay, there's good for the soul. Yeah. Breathe that in, breathe in that attention for a little bit. Because, you know, I don't like to be called an attention seeker, but some people need it. Some people need to have their fill of performance. And I think that's the way, it should be looked at, because again, I think that's something that sometimes gets me. If someone thinks that I'm that person who craves it, that'll get me down, because, you know, I never want that to be the case. I've just always been the person who can come up with it. So if someone draws attention to it and says, "Oh, Emil again," "Oh, he's doing that again," "It's him again," it's like, well, yeah, it is me again. But I don't see you stepping up to fill that gap. So if you can come up with anything better, be my guest. But don't have a go at me for wanting to create a bit of an atmosphere, you know. And that's the way I feel that a lot of like anyone who likes to be that person can sometimes take a hit mentally with it. You know, sometimes that person who might look like they want to be the center of attention, we're just good at it. Mm-hmm. And that's something that you can't take away. And my biggest pet hate in the world is to knock people down a peg or two. You know, in terms of like if they're on a roll, and if your only contribution is to go, there you go, stick that stick in the, yeah, exactly. If you want to do that, then fine, by all means. But equally, if they do that to us, I'll be like, well, I'm gonna have a laugh back with you. You know, well, of course, fine. Give me all the stick in the world, but don't like go out of your way to make it like almost sound a little bit nasty.
Yeah.
And you know, I've probably done it myself. So you know, if someone's watching this and going, he's wrong, he's done that too. We've all done it. I think we've all done it when someone's maybe getting above the station and you go, oh, yeah, no, just leave it, would you? But, you know, in the same way, if the same person, and you will notice it, the same person will just refuse to enjoy any part of it, that's when you kind of go, what's your problem? Yeah. What's your problem? You know, I'm here to have a laugh, and I get that you're here to have a laugh, but you're clearly not here to have a laugh. You know, I'll make jokes at stuff and I expect people to maybe laugh, but I'll never try and go to the point where I make it personal.
No, definitely. Some people get out of it. That's right.
Exactly. Some people like that. You know what I'm doing now, though? And I'll like, Josh, this will tie perfectly in. Right now, in my head, and this is how my head works, I'm thinking of all the times that I've done that, and you can hear me trying to cover myself here to go, yeah. Shit, what about the time you did that? Oh God, right, okay. So quickly, just to say, I've done it too, and that is how my head works, and that is how.
And that's the thing. That'd be mental health insecurity saying to you, yeah, but do you know what? You need to apologise. Someone somewhere will go to you, do you know what I mean? You've done that.
Yeah, exactly. And that's exactly my day to day. It'll happen to me when I'm talking on the radio. If I say something and I hear it in my head about how that can be interpreted, sometimes I'll just lose all track.
Yeah.
So the way I'm talking now, if I think to myself, oh God, there'll be someone who thinks that was done that was that time. My point is that if someone is like me and likes to be the person who maybe starts the conversation and keeps the conversation going and keeps a joke going, or starts a joke, or tweets something that says, oh, satire type taking the mick. That's the way I would do it. If someone goes, oh well, that hurt them, and it's like, well, yeah, did it though, or did it was it just like, was I going, you're an arsehole for being a center of attention, or was it more, because that's it, that's how I will hear it in my head. It's like, if someone goes, oh, it's Emil again, he's doing this thing, it's like, yeah, so you've got a bit of a problem. But when I'll try and do it, it's like, I don't know. Look, I'm already digging, and that is where I need to get myself out of.
I'm the same as you. I'm that person who I can always find time to make the conversation, keep it going, crack a joke. Normally they're awful, but I laugh at them. But I'm the sort of person to tell it twice in case someone missed it, because I crave that little bit of attention myself for my own mental balance. I need someone to laugh at it, because otherwise I feel like I've done a bad job. And
well, that's it. That's exactly it. And like, that's the thing throughout that. If anyone wants to rewind what just happened in the last 5-10 minutes, you will see me struggling to stop myself from thinking about the times where I perhaps made a joke that someone didn't like, and I didn't feel like there was a problem with it. But to be fair, I like to think of myself as like careful and quite I'll think about what I say.
definitely.
With that, because I know how it would make me feel, and I think that there's a lot of times when I will reflect on stuff that I've said or done and think, oh bugger, like, shouldn't have said that. Fair enough, don't do it next time. And I think that the thing is that a lot of people don't see that. A lot of people don't see that reflection. They'll have that opinion, and for me, that's the bit that gets me the most. I've gone into a job where, granted, it's going to have people who like and don't like, but in my head, I want everyone to like. So, I want to be that person for my friends that we've just been discussing, and can be that center. But I would like to be that for strangers. But I know that it's not going to always be that way. So, so yeah, you've just got to be mindful of the things that you've said in the past, because someone will bring you up on it, and it's like, well, maybe I did, but what if I was to say to you now, like, sorry?
Yeah,
because I can tell you a million times the people who've never apologized to me for the things that they've said. So you think, well, what have I done that's so wrong that I can't apologize for? That maybe something was taken the wrong way, and I'll go, all right, sorry, okay, sorry, but then say I'm just
that's the thing, the big mindset, isn't it? It's sort of like there's so many avenues that you could go down and explain, but that's the way that the mind works.
Yeah. Obviously, and that's the overthinking. That's my biggest downfall. It's the overthinking. It's like, well, that person mustn't like me because of this.
Yeah, exactly.
But then why wouldn't they like me for that? Or maybe I'm gonna look at that person. I'm gonna see what that person's doing. What have I done? Let me think back of everything that I've ever done. I can't think of anything. It must be that. Oh God, it has to be that. Oh, God, avoid that person at all costs. It's mad. It's crazy.
It is.
And you know what? This isn't the type of thing that will necessarily get someone into an instant, like, day-to-day depression. But this can absolutely cripple you sometimes, because there'll be times when you wake up and think of it first thing. You'll have anxiety dreams about it, and you'll go, "Oh, geez, this is ongoing." And in a weird masochistic way, it's like you are constantly craving to find out, but never find out what it is that's upsetting you. Oh dear.
That's how it all starts. And
Well, exactly. There we go. We're on the cusp, and I just need to try and kick it in.
You can do. But have you got any hints or tips that you use to sort of level yourself out day to day?
None that I've kind of come up with on my own. I recently read a great book called The Subtle Art of Not Giving a Fuck. Mm-hmm. And that is my biggest one at the minute. And that was only a few weeks ago. So my best advice that I've shared from that is that, and I might be paraphrasing here, so read the book. I've got nothing to promote, but read the book. If you take one little bit from it, then it'll help. The bit that really stuck with me was that, there are times in your life where you'll work towards something that you want, and if there are no problems in the way, then it's not worth going for, because you work through each problem to get to what you want. But then when you get to what you want, there'll be another set of problems to get towards, and then when you go through those problems, it means that you're working towards the next good thing. Like, don't expect anything to just not have a few barriers, and you've got to try and bite through them. If you've not got any problems, then you're not doing it right, in a way. And I think that I agreed with you to a certain extent, because it really resonated with me in radio. It was like starting from the bottom and going up and up and up and up, and all the problems that I can think about, the times when I was like, oh, I'm doing this awful hour shift and I hate it, to where I'm now doing this every day. It's like, okay, that was worth working through. So the next step of wherever I go into radio, I've got to expect a few problems along the way. But the bit that really stuck with us was about fault and responsibility. If you're feeling down and crap about something's probably made you feel that way, which is fine. You're allowed to feel that way, and you're allowed to point at the thing that is making you feel like that. But it is your responsibility to try and work your way out of it. And I know that sounds like a lot of effort, but for me, it was like the days when during lockdown, I maybe thought, oh God, I don't want to do this workout. I don't want to do this home workout. They're just making us sad. The thing I had to do was just give my personal trainer a message and just say, look, mate, I don't really fancy doing it. And then he said, all right, cool. We'll just leave it this week then. And I went, that's all it was. That's all it took. If you take a bit of responsibility for getting yourself out of these situations, no matter how big or small, then you can do it. And you can still say, that person's a bastard for making me feel like this. But if you dwell on it, then you are contributing to it, because you are using that responsibility to dwell on that situation and that scenario. So you're thinking to yourself like, oh, they've made me feel like crap. All right, I'm still thinking about it. So if you stop thinking about it, then how about you do something that takes your energy? And yeah, that's kind of what I took from the book. I'm again probably phrasing it wrong and everything like that, but my biggest thing to anyone, my advice is always like, if something is getting you, you've got to plow the energy into something else. Find a little passion project, because that is it. I've used every time that someone's given me a bit of feedback that I didn't like. If like a boss didn't like a certain thing that I did, you harness that and you can ride that into the next thing. And, the amount of times that I've been told that something wasn't good, remember it, bloody smash through that next wall. And, it's all right to be angry, but just use that energy and make sure that it propels you to the next bit and gets you out of those holes. Because there'll be weeks when I go on air and I think, oh God, this is the worst radio you've ever done. Just the other day, in fact. And then 2 days later, you are laughing your head off at something that you've come up with. And I know that this will not relate to a lot of people, because it's a very different scenario. But yeah, there'll be days when I just think that was the worst thing you've ever done. 2 days later, it's like, that's the best thing you've ever done. That is so much better than the other day. And then that will lead into the next one. And then, there'll be a day again when it comes around and it goes, oh, creative slump. Okay, we've hit a wall again. But yeah, but there we are. So creative slump comes along. Right, I can either mope around and thinking, oh, this is going to be the worst show ever. Or you can be responsible for it and do something about it and just make the best of a bad situation and rely on your skills to just get through it. And
Definitely.
sometimes that's just good enough, isn't it? Just getting through that initial feeling and thinking, right, if I can get through this bit, then I can do anything.
That's it. See it as a challenge rather than an obstacle. Take the challenge on head on.
Yeah, and I recommend that book. You know, again, it was a lot of big words, and it was quite funny actually because I was reading it, and as situations cropped up, I kept seeing things and thinking, "Oh God, you've done that, and then I'd be reading a page, Josh, and I'd forget what I'd read by the bottom of it because I'd been thinking about a situation in my mind, and it's mad, isn't it? It's mad when you think about it. I'm just going. I have to go back and read that again because I was just thinking about that time that I did something completely similar to that, and that is it. My head works. Someone described it as an Intel processor. I'm thinking about the next 3 things before I've even got there.
Yeah,
and I'm doing a million things at once in my head. So if I'm saying something and thinking about how that might have happened to me once, I'm already thinking back to that memory or that time. and you've probably, over the 40 minutes that we've been chatting, Josh, someone's probably assessing me and going, that lad, he's whirring.
The brain's ticking.
Yeah, man. Honestly, it is.
But what an absolute pleasure to have you on, Emil.
I've really enjoyed it. It's honestly, I've not actually had a proper chat on camera like this in forever. So I think long may they continue. And I recommend anyone who wants to come on and talk about stuff, then do it because it's good laughing it. Sets you up.
It does. It just gets it off your chest, and that's how I want it to be. I want it to be a podcast where people can come on and just have a chat.
And this is with a camera. This is with a camera and a microphone.
Yeah.
Take the camera and a microphone away and keep the beer. You're in a pub.
Yeah, exactly.
When we get out there, you're in a pub. Just and you know what? Sorry, Josh, just to keep it going, but me and fellow people from my industry, we have found so much in common. So if it's someone that you might not speak to all the time, if you just go and say, "Yeah, I've been feeling this," they will definitely have had something similar. Mm-hmm. So there is nothing to be ashamed of, really. In a way, it's purely just a case of finding some middle ground. And even if it feels like you're just like spewing it out, at least you've said it.
That's it. It helps. Talking helps. And that's the big thing I want to try and get across. And hopefully the more of the locker room podcast there are, the more guests I can get on, the more people can be. It's not as irregular and it's not as demeaning as they think it might be. So
I think that my best advice would be, Josh, is we need more people like doing what you're doing. Because, I came onto this with no idea of what I would talk about. And yeah, cool. It's fine to say talk, but you prompted the questions. Sorry, you prompted the conversation. So I think for those who are lucky enough to not have any form of problem going on at the minute, it's better for you to start the conversation. It makes it so much easier for people like myself to open up. It's fine saying seek help, get help. But if you can make it easier for the other person to talk in the first place, then it's a world of difference.
Definitely. But thank you very much for coming on.
Thoroughly enjoyed it.
And we're going to call it there. And I hope everyone enjoyed tonight. And follow Mr. Franchi on Twitter. And
that's how you spell it. If my name there, whatever it is, there it is.
Is that right? I got it right.
Oh yeah, you got it right. Yeah, it's genuine. Like I always think to myself, I'm like, Greg James has it so easy because his name is just Greg James. Why the hell am I called Emil Franchi? But then once you've heard it, you don't forget it.
Exactly.
So don't.
That's it. Brilliant. Thank you very much, mate. Take care.
And you.